Hey, what's going on, good people? Welcome to Russ Can Fly. Winter flying hits different, baby.
Oh my God, Russ can fly.
Okay, so I don't want to be out here too long because it is pretty cold. But I flew into Delaware Coastal Airport and I'm on my way back to Doylestown. And I didn't want to film the flight down because I really wanted to focus on, you know, really just flying the airplane, hand flying, just feeling it and stuff. Still trying to work out, you know, straight and level, really trying to dial that in because I'm really into trying to get ready for all of this instrument flying stuff. And so because of that, I didn't film the flight coming down, but I figured I'd film the flight going back to Doylestown. And this was my first time to Delaware Coastal. And I just wanted to show you this place back here. Awesome airport. If you wonder what the noise is, there's a helicopter about to land back there. But at any rate, this is an awesome airport. I mean, Delaware Coastal, you know, I call it GED. It's pretty easy to remember, but Kilo, Golf, Echo, Delta. Definitely a airport you have to put on your list. These people are absolutely amazing, super friendly, super helpful. I mean, it was awesome. Now, so where I'm parked is actually people who are monthly, you know, people and all that kind of stuff. And so I parked in the wrong place. But even though that was the case, guy came over, said hello, brought the golf cart over just to let me know that, you know, it's kind of parked in the wrong place. But then he basically said, hey, I'll give you a ride over to the restaurant. And he did that, and that was just so cool. So if you hear me talking really fast, that's because it is really cold. It maybe not look like it, and thank the Lord it's not too windy. But yeah, it's definitely really chilly out here. The one thing I wanted to show you is, look at this airplane behind me, this Piper Cherokee. That is a big bird. Anyway, let me get in this airplane, get this engine started because I'm cold, Charlie's probably cold, and we need to get heated. And I'll tell you about something I discovered about Charlie and cold weather flying. It actually kind of surprised me. I wasn't prepared for it, and that's the thing that's like so amazing about aviation. Every flight I'm learning something about this airplane. All right, so let me get in this airplane, get the engine started, and so we can get back home because I don't want it to get too dark. Oh, that wind is cold. All right, so I'm in the airplane, gonna get myself situated here, and it's like every time I put that headset on this bald head, woo, it's like torture. All right, so it's definitely been a little chilly for sure, but man, one of the things that has really surprised me about Charlie is how she behaves in cold weather. It's actually been a little scary at how aggressively she climbs in cold air. So it's about, I think 22 degrees, 23 degrees, something like that. The wind is a little stiff, and it's been crazy. Like she, you know, normal stuff, normal, you know, settings, like usually like 2,400, 350, something like that. And I mean, man, it's like she's like a rocket. And so I'm really having to figure out how to dial in her performance in this cold weather. So, but we'll do more of that kind of stuff. Let me go ahead and get this engine started so I can let her warm up, and let me warm up. All right, here we go. Where's my checklist? Oh, there it is. And I'll remember not to put the checklist on the thing so you don't get that stupid glare. All right, and for the record, when the checklist is up there, I don't see that glare. For whatever reason, the camera picks it up. So anyway, I digress. Start the engine. Tip up. All right, so one of the other things too is leaning operations are so different. I think just because of the way the fuel works when it's colder, I can't lean as much as I get that engine roughness. The other thing is I have to take more time in allowing the engine temperature, oil temperature to heat up. So I'll really kind of take my time and, you know, get through the flight plan and stuff. We'll talk more about that issue because that's something that actually caught me completely off guard. But stay with me. We'll talk about that once we get up. Hey. All right, so let's go up and check our brakes. Just let her kind of come up, and then she starts moving. I pull back on the brake. Brake is good. And we can go on ahead and taxi on out. As you can see, I'm turning here. So just following the signs here because I have never taxied, and I want runway 28 because that's what the winds are favoring. All right, so we are taxiing on out, and this is an awesome airport. I mean, seriously, you should definitely come check out this place. I noticed there's a bunch of people down here just hanging out in the restaurant that weren't even flying. Delaware Coastal Traffic, Cherokee 1541 Charlie, crossing runway 22 at Bravo. All right, and you can see I'm coming across the active here, and when I get on the other side, I will call clear. And Delaware Coastal Traffic, Cherokee 1541 Charlie, clear runway 22 at Bravo, Delaware Coastal. All right, and the taxi landing light can come back off. But yeah, so that's just to make sure that if anybody was coming in on runway 22, I saw a Cirrus Vision jet take off on 22, so people were still using that runway. But I am now taxiing up to runway 28, which is a shorter runway, but it is fine for my performance purposes and characteristics. And I'm pretty sure I am going the right way because I think I remember taxiing from this way when I came down. Yeah, I remember this trucking stuff over here when I landed. And it was actually a nice landing because it's basically blowing right down the pike, which is really, really nice. Yeah, see, look at the windsock. So see how it's pointing that way? That means it's blowing 280 basically. So perfect for my purposes. Okay, yeah, this is still a taxiway. Just have to make sure because you don't want any runway incursions or anything like that. And it's interesting because this airport is pretty big and it seems like it should have a tower. So as you can see, like a lot of different markings for 28, you know, at Delta 3, lots of stuff going on. So what I'm going to do is pull up here, turn into the wind, and do my run up, and I'll see you guys on the other side of that. All right, so I'm gonna get ready for my takeoff. So taxi landing light comes on, fuel pump comes on, mixture is full rich. We're on the left tank, fuel pressure looks good, oil temp looks good, and trim is set for takeoff.
Delaware Coastal Traffic, Cessna 64017, clear runway 28, Delaware Coastal.
Delaware Coastal Traffic, Cherokee 1541 Charlie, departing runway 28 out to the north, Delaware Coastal. All right, so we're gonna pull on up here. And as you can see, I turned away from the ditch. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, I'm good. I'm not going to try to crash into the ditch. As you can see, I'm using all of this runway. It is a shorter runway, and I know I have the performance, but, you know, if you got runway, good runway, use it. All right, so I see...
Delaware Coastal Traffic, Cessna 64017, crossing runway 042
I see 28 in front of me, 28 on the compass, 28 on the heading indicator, and we are good to go. All right, heels to the floor, full power. All right, engine instruments in the green, oil pressure, oil temp, fuel pressure, all look good. Airspeed is coming alive. And she's gonna take off really quickly. And like I said, the performance has been crazy. I've really had to kind of hold her back a little bit. And so right now, what are we climbing at? 95 knots, and we're climbing 1,500 feet a minute. I'm just saying, crazy. Oh man, look at this, so beautiful. Look at out there. I mean, I know you're seeing a lot of sky, but man, this is so beautiful. And it is really smoothed out later on. I mean, earlier it was pretty gnarly. All right, so I'm seeing everything that I need to on my scoreboard here. All right, 200 to go. And you're gonna start seeing that nose leveling off. All right, so I'm gonna let this airspeed build up. So basically what I'm doing is I'm flying right along the bay here. I don't know if the camera will pick it up over here, but the bay, Delaware Bay is over here, but I'm going 355, so I'm going kind of like northwest. So I have to go down to 4,500. 4,500 is indicating. All right, they're doing 2-3. All right, so one of the things I wanted to talk about in terms of winter flying being really different is, and I didn't film this flight, I hadn't, wait, let me just make sure I check everything. So everything is cool, 4,500, everything the scoreboard looks good, fuel pressure looks good, amps look good, oil temp is good, oil pressure is good, and we are doing pretty good here. All right, so something I learned on the last flight. So I hadn't flown in about a week or so. Winds were like really vicious. I mean, it was just really crazy. And I took off. So of course I waited for, you know, the engine oil to heat up. And I really wasn't paying attention, which was like really not good, so I'm telling on myself. Because normally I see the engine monitor, and if it's flashing, it'll say oil temp, oil temp, oil temp. And so once I stop seeing that flashing, I assume everything is okay and the oil is heating the way it needs to heat. So it heats up, and I believe it was somewhere around 100, but again, I wasn't paying attention. And that's actually not good operational temperature. And in fact, I'm a little bit, I mean, it's in the green. It's like 167 right now. You want it about 170, 180 seems to be, 180 seems to be the sweet spot for Lycoming engines, which this one has. And so, again, I wasn't paying attention. It was at 100, but I really wasn't paying attention, which is not good. And I did my run up, all of that kind of stuff, still not paying attention. And I think I vaguely remember maybe it was at 90, but again, I was not paying attention. Do you see the theme? Not paying attention, not good. I you know, took off and I'm flying. And again, not paying attention because my assumption is Charlie is going to behave the way she's been behaving all this time. Man, this is so beautiful. My goodness. Anyway, I'm sorry I keep getting distracted. The Delaware Bay is just so beautiful. And I think I see one over here in 95. I'm flying over Dover Air Force Base right now. And I am legal because I am above their airspace. But anyway, I digress. You know, just flying out, just, you know, manhandling it because the winds were crazy. I took off in a 12-knot crosswind. Definitely was like pushing the envelope a little bit. And definitely just wanted to get out and do a little quick flight. After about, I would say 5-10 minutes, I noticed the engine temperature, oil temperature started flashing. Oil temp, oil temp, oil temp. And I'm looking at it like, wait, what? Oil temp? I didn't know what I was looking at because I had never seen it do that before when I was flying. Well, most of the flying I've been doing, remember, I bought Charlie in May. And so most of the flying that I've been doing has been in the warmer months. So really, my whole task was keeping the engine cool, looking at the cylinder head temperatures, exhaust gas temperatures, all of that kind of stuff. And so that's where I really paid attention, but I never really paid attention to the oil temperature. So, of course, I knew that that wasn't a good deal. That's not something that I should be doing. And I you know, at first I kind of froze. So then I was doing stuff with the leaning, and I'm thinking maybe it's not leaned enough. But then I leaned too much, and I got real rough in the engine. I saw the exhaust gas temperatures do something weird. So I was seeing a whole lot of stuff that I wasn't used to seeing. So at the end of the day, what I decided to do was bail. Turned right around and came back in to Doylestown. And was really shocked. Like, I didn't understand. I literally did not understand what was happening. So I landed, put the airplane away, and immediately got on YouTube. And was like, cold weather flying, Piper 235, Lycoming engines, I think this is a 540B, something like that, B2, I think it's a 540 B2, B4, Lycoming. So suffice it to say, I'm like, looking, and one of the things that I found out was, it can actually be too cold out here because you have this air coming in, right, into the engine to cool it off, and then it's going out of because this lower pressure below the plane, higher pressure inside, and so it's forced down out, and that's to keep the engine cool and all that kind of stuff. But it's also blowing across the oil cooler. So there's all of this cooling going on, but not enough heat. So I see all these things about winterization kits and all of that kind of stuff. And basically the bottom line is, like, when it's cold out like this, you have to do one or two things, or maybe both. Now, so far, I look like I have it dialed in. But what I had to do was, since my fairing doesn't have a really big space, I don't need something to kind of block that to keep the heat from coming out. And I'm going to look to see if there is a weatherization plate in there, because I do see that there's like a small little triangle. I'll be looking at that because that's something I want to take out when I fly over the summer, because that allows more air to flow through, thus allowing me to keep the engine temperatures cooler. But one of the things that was crazy was the oil cooler was the other part of the equation, because again, there's air forced over the oil cooler, and there's these fins, the oil goes through it there, the heat is allowed to dissipate, and then the oil goes back into the engine after being cooled. And so that's the purpose of the oil cooler. Well, so the outside temperature is 35 degrees, but it's definitely going to be colder up here. And so all of that air on the oil cooler was actually cooling the oil off too much, if you can believe it. And so, yeah, so that was problematic because it wasn't allowing the oil to heat up enough. And so, yeah, I mean, it was just crazy. So what I had to end up doing was covering part of the oil cooler. Of course, not the whole thing, because you still need some cooling effect, but some subset of the oil cooler. And I think I've got it pretty much dialed in, because one of the things that all of the people who recommended doing this, let me see, I see an airport down there, is kind of dial it in. You have to experiment at how much to cover. So I've basically covered 3/4 of the oil cooler, and that really seems to have done the trick. So here's my stats. So I'm at 2,400 RPMs. My indicated airspeed is 123 knots. My true airspeed is 129 knots, but my ground speed is 108 knots. And I'm burning about 13.3 gallons per hour. I have my oil temperature is at 169, 170 degrees Fahrenheit. That's much better. Now, for all my non-pilot peeps out there, why is that a big deal? If you run these engines and you don't heat that oil up enough, you get a lot of condensation in the oil and in the engine. That condensation is water. Your engine is metal. Metal and water don't mix. Well, they do. They end up in this thing called rust. And that's definitely something that you don't want to have happen. And so, yeah, so that was one of the big things. Plus, not heating that oil up, it doesn't flow as well. There's just all kinds of mischief that can happen if you don't have good operating oil temperatures. I would like it to be at 180, but 170, it's like right on that line for the old oil temp and, you know, in the green. And so we're doing good. And, you know, that is not something that I ever thought about, ever. And so I guess when I was renting like Little Sammy, the other 172s from Leading Edge, I guess they were doing all of that as I went from, you know, one season to the next. And just, I was just that and happy, never paid any attention to that. So it's crazy. I mean, the things that I'm learning now that I have to be responsible for the operational maintenance and all of the issues with this airplane. And it's just, you know, the thing that's just one of the things I love. At first, it's a little nerve-wracking, it's a little frustrating, it's a little scary because I didn't know what I was going to have to do. I was Googling weatherization kits and I was getting all these weird plates and stuff like that, but most of them were for 140s, for Piper Cherokee 140s, which this airplane is not, and that just wasn't helpful at all. So just real quick, so look out here, see how the sun is going in and it's getting dark and it's almost looking like I'm getting ready to fly into clouds, and it's not. It's just like a little bit of haze up there, whatever. It's still 10 statute miles and the clouds are, I think I'm at 4,500 feet. I believe the clouds are at 8,000 feet, something like that. And it's actually a solid layer, but I'm good that way. So yeah, that was my first thing that I found out. Now here's the other thing. So I plugged in my oil heater. I came back on Friday, and because I knew I wanted to fly on Saturday and figure all of this stuff out. And when I came in through my pre-flight and stuff like that, when I pulled the dipstick out of the oil pan to check the oil level, the oil actually ran and dripped. So that oil heater, that Leading Edge, you know, put on during the annual, amazing. I mean, the oil was nice and viscous and all that kind of stuff. And the reason why that is important is because you want good viscosity on cold weather because you want the oil to be able to flow quickly into the valves and all of that kind of stuff. And so having the oil warm and being able to move helps with wear and tear and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I want to be a good steward and take care of this aircraft the way Mr. Terry did. And so that's one of the things that I definitely want to be mindful of. All right, so those are the two things in the winter, you know, that have been, you know, very interesting, and it all deals with oil, right? The oil heater, which is miraculous. And like I said, I was able to dial in that oil cooler issue because we're getting much better oil temperatures. So another thing, people ask me if I have heat in the airplane. I do. So I don't know if the camera will be able to pick it up, but this is my mixture that determines how much fuel to air is in the aircraft. This over here is actually the cabin heat. And as I pull it out, it gets warmer. As I push it in, it gets cooler. So yes, I have plenty of heat. All right, so the last thing I'll say that I've learned about winter flying in this airplane is, I've already talked about it, is performance. Charlie performs so much differently in cold air than she does in warm, and that's all airplanes really. It's been shocking how different the performance is. I mean, and again, remember, this is a high performance engine. It's 235 horsepower, and it's definitely more than any of the other engines I have ever flown in. And so yeah, I was used to seeing some subset of delta in performance between warm weather and cold weather. But the delta in like the 172s, The Piper Archer, that one only had a 140 horsepower engine. One of them was 160. I flew a couple of the Cessnas at Doylestown. They were 180. So that delta was about this. Charlie, I'm serious, man. You know, it was just crazy how it would just like leap off the runway. And I mean, it was just skyrocketing. And I would hear like, you know, I would set my, you know, altitude. And all of a sudden I'm hearing it's like 1,000 feet already. And I'm just like, man, I just got started. And I'm trying to still go through my checklist. So one of the things I learned is that I have to be careful not to get behind the airplane in Charlie when I'm flying in the winter months, because she performs. The engine, all that oxygen, she's loving it. All that dense air, the lift, the airframe is loving it. And, you know, from that standpoint, it's cool. So those are my things that are happening in terms of my winter flying and things I'm learning about Charlie. And, you know, it's just such a different type of flying. And, you know, all the things that you learn. All right, so been a great flight, done some great flying. Definitely looking forward to being back. And sometimes it's definitely just great flying, but, you know, I will say that there are times where I'm just like, okay, it's been a day, and I'm good. And I'm sure what'll happen is, as soon as I land, I'll get home, I'll start downloading this footage and start thinking about like how I want to edit it and stuff like that. And immediately I'll be thinking, do I have time to fly tomorrow? Oh, so crazy. Such a crazy life. I imagine it's like that for people who have a passion for things. Like, you know, you're a marathon runner and you've run a marathon, and as you're running, you're just like, okay, this could really end now. I'm good. You know, this has been great, but, you know, this can really end now. And you run it, and a couple days go by, and you're just like, that's kind of awesome. What other marathon can I sign up for? Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Alright, so I am just flying on in, and I'm about 15 miles out. So it's going to be pretty much close to time for me to get to work here. Alright, so let's get ready for landing. Pre-landing. So landing light is going to go on. Autopilot is going to come off. Thank you, Carol, for your help. Doylestown traffic, Cherokee 1541 Charlie, about 10 west of the field, inbound runway 23, Doylestown. Alright, so landing light is on, and we are about to cross midfield. And we've got 200 to go, so let's go ahead and take this down to 1500. And you can see we're coming right up on the airport. See the green, white, green, white, green. So that's how I know where the airport is. Look for the beacon. And Doylestown traffic, Cherokee 1541 Charlie, 5 west of the field. Gonna overfly midfield for a left downwind for runway 23, Doylestown. Alright, fuel pump is gonna come on. Mixture's gonna go full rich. And we're gonna go over to left main. Left main is in, I feel the detent. And fuel pressure looks good. Oil temp looks good. Everything is looking good.
So I apologize for this video being so long, so I'm gonna just go ahead, get this airplane on the ground and end this video. There was just so much to talk about, and I just wanted to tell so much about winter flying and Charlie, because remember, everything that's happening, this is a first for me in this airplane. So alright, let's get on the ground and let's end this video.
You can see the end of the runway there, and look at the sky. I got so distracted, but that is just so gorgeous. All right, we're coming off the end here. And Doylestown traffic, Cherokee 1541 Charlie, clear runway 23 Doylestown. All right, so taxi landing, those landing lights can come off, fuel pump can come off. All right, so this was a great day of flying. And I was really glad that I was able to, you know, do some great flying in Charlie today. Figure out that whole, you know, air thing with the oil cooler and get it all situated. You know, definitely happy for that, for sure. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you guys for flying with me. Winter flying. Whole different ball game, people. Whole different ball game. All right. Take care. Russ can fly. I'm out. Peace.